I'm Joe Hogan. I'm holding a Randed Creel, and my son Ciaran is going to demonstrate how to make it, and then I'll put a handle on afterwards.
What I'm making here is a rectangular creel. I'm using brown willow, so willow that has been harvested and completely dry, and it's all been soaked in water and probably steamed as well, just to make it a little bit extra supple. Okay, so what I've started with here is 40 uprights. I've put my 4 absolute thickest in the corners. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I put 8 thin rods, so 2 per corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are the thinnest of my uprights, so they go in alongside the thick corner posts, and then I put the remaining rods in the other spaces, so they're doubled up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Also on these rods, I just put a clean cut on them. When we take our creel out, then it'll all be nice and even and clean. It's optional then whether you want to put a point on it or not. There's a branch on this one here, so I'm going to put any branchy ones on the short end. So that's all my rods in. Now I'm going to tie the top. So tying the top, just using a bit of electrical wire here, so nice and smooth. So after getting my uprights in, the next thing is to tie them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave out the 4 corners. So that's the 3 rods in each 4 corners I'm leaving out. I'm going to gather in all the other ones. Second corner left out. Third corner and the 4th corner. You're not tying it in too tight. Loose enough tie. Around about there. So this is me tying everything except my 4 corners. It's not like doing a rope weave bowl or anything like that, where you're very precise about your uprights. It's just a loose gathering in of the rods. And now I'm going to grab my 4 corners, 3 rods in each. I'm going to tie them a little bit higher, because at some stage I want to let these guys out and not let them all out. As I said, just a rough enough tie, something like that. Maybe come down. So once you have your uprights in and tied, the next thing is putting in your weaver. So we've 18 weavers. It's probably going to take 3 sets to do this creel. 1, I'll probably put in a window then. 2, 3. Depends how it goes, 3 or 4 sets. So I'm starting off with my thicker sets. Okay, so the first set of 18 is here. I place it in and the butt comes out like that, and then you weave it once, in front, behind and out. Okay, now the next weaver, lift it up, the weaver goes in on the board and then up and over, out like that. Just easing it off the uprights a little bit so that it doesn't take the skin off, and weave this guy in front of one, behind one and out. From here on in, you put it in every time. In this little X here, it goes in there. No harm, maybe curve your rod a little bit, make life a little bit easier. In there, up and over, it stays underneath there and it comes out over, just a safe distance out. We'll trim those guys afterwards, and then this rod comes out and over. That's the detail every time. Corner, it's a little bit more complicated. We're just shy of it here. One more, in and up, in underneath, out and over. The biggest thing with these creels is always be pulling out the corners. Keep that nice square edge. Front one, behind and out. Next rod in. So this is the slight complication in relation to the corner. That rod might be a bit chunky, so I'm going to use a thinner one. If the corners are a bit more difficult, you're better off use slightly thinner rod. In underneath, up and over. So it is the exact same principle as before. Because this rod is resting here, you have to pull it over to catch it, like so, and then pin it front, behind and out. So just after the corner there, now we're back to normal. In underneath, out and over. And nothing has changed on the corner. You just need to make sure to catch that rod when you're coming around the corner. Up and over. Another thing to do is make sure all these uprights are nice and straight when you're going along. And out. I curve in the rod before I put it in underneath, up and over. I'll do the corner one more time coming up here. In under and up. So important it stays under, it comes up over. And then really important, pulling out those corners every time. In and up. Pull that guy forward. This guy comes out and over. So I'm continuing here with the mouth whale and just coming up in my corner.
And can I'm going to get a different shot now and bunya bail. Hagan to Jean Cornell, I'm going to brew, but I'm Cornell Giri going to sack. So, she'll that broke Tommy on Tommy Lumps, Quinny Mac the Cornell, Fashion or Quinny and the Slacky Cornell and Mac Giro, when it's a high gold bug of the skull of sack.
Coming up to my finish here, not there just yet. The only thing I did since, I grabbed a few weights. I noticed my board moving a bit. So in underneath and out over. Making sure all these boys are nice and straight. Next guy in, getting a nice curve at the start. In underneath, up and over. Okay, so I'm coming back to where I finish. If you notice all the rods that are coming out, they're all coming out on top of the board. So this has to do exactly the same. Big loop. And all the butts, if you notice, they're sitting up on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift that butt, leave it up like that. Do my big loop. Anytime you're getting rods into tight spaces, you do your big loop, you work the tip first. Work it back. And the rod is going under and up and over. So the exact same principle as before. Often when you get here, oh, that popped up. So the easier way to do that is, I could have just done that at the end, okay? See that? Put in my next rod, in underneath, up and over. And as I was saying, so the rod, this is the equivalent of it. So it comes out over as normal. It goes underneath, out over the tip, so it'll be doing that. And then it goes over and under. So out over, you kink it off this. Then do your big loop. So it's going over and back under. Like so. Next rod. It's my final rod, it is. So in under, up and over. You need to pull that guy over like that and get this guy up and over. I'm going to get a little bit of grease. So it's the exact same principle. The best way to figure it out is follow another rod. Whatever the other rod is doing, this is doing the same. So it's going to go up and over. It goes under the butt, like what this rod's doing, under the butt. And then it goes over the butt, and all these rods, the tip comes out on top of the board. So I am going to grease it up. You can make the space and you'll tap all that down afterwards. Big loop, tip through. Bit shy there, going to feed it on another little bit. You could adjust it afterwards, but when you see it, the time to do it. Often here at the end, if you're there close enough, a quick pull gets it through, safe as any. So that's the mouth whale complete. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get my wrapping iron and give everything a good tap down. I'll probably come along with my secateurs. This won't be the final trim, but I'll just get these guys back a little bit like that before I move on to my next weave. Okay. Okay, so I'm just doing regular randing. This rectangular creel, I'm doing regular randing throughout, as opposed to a knotted creel where you do regular randing, reverse randing, regular randing, reverse randing. My reason for cutting those guys down is just so this next weave goes through there a little bit earlier. If I left those long, they'd be more likely to have a kink here, okay? That's what you're trying to avoid, is the kink there. No harm, a little bit of a pull on the rod, and you just up like that, in front to one, behind one. Every weave on the creel goes in front to one, behind one. That is going in a bit, so I'm going to pull it out, a little bit on the shaping, down, pulling out the corners every time, round like that. Mind your shape the whole time. Very happy with that, a nice smoothness there. Depending on the material, you sometimes get kinks there. Sometimes it's avoidable, but if at all possible, you want that to be as smooth as possible.
Tris, this last piece, get her you.
So I'm just coming back to where I started. I'm not there just yet. So here we are. This is the first rod I wove. This is the second, and so on. This is my second last and my last. So I have to weave these guys out from under, pinning it exactly the same, and then finally this lad weaves underneath like that, like a normal rand. That's a full lap. You'd give it a really good tap down and just go randing again, and you're randing throughout until your last set, till your last weave, where we'll go tucking them under. So I've done my mouth whale and one lap of randing, so I'm going to give it another good tap down. One other thing that's quite important here before you go too far is make sure all your uprights are pushed down. See that? Okay. So what happens is when you put them in and they're touching the bottom and you start weaving, some of them lift a little bit. So you just need to go around to every single upright, push it down like that, and then I'd also just lift the template and just eyeball every single one. The last thing you want is to pull your creel out of the template at the end and see one of these spokes, one of these uprights shy. Okay, so I've come to the stage of these rods where there's only one more weave left in them. Anything after that is getting too thin. So the last weave, instead of doing regular randing, which is going that way, we do a tucking under randing, which is this way. So I'm going to weave this rod first, in front to one, behind one. Then I'm going to take this rod, as opposed to this rod normally, I'm going to take this rod, in front to one, behind one. So the first two weaves are just normal. Once you do those first two weaves, you create two pairs, the pair on the left and the pair on the right. So it's the pair on the left, the bottom rod comes out and over. Corner, pull it out. Bottom rod comes out and over. The corner, make sure you're catching that guy. Bottom rod out and over, up like that. Bottom rod. It's not enough just to weave the bottom rod. You have to pull it out, get that guy down, bring it in, pin it. Front one, behind one. And what you will do is, when you're all finished, see the way that guy's sitting a bit loose? So when I put in my weave on top of this and it tightens things up, I'll pull that into that corner. And maybe you'll pull that in by pulling this rod tight in on it. So I'm going to keep going here. The bottom rod up and over. Bottom rod out and over. Pull out the corner. Bottom rod out and over. Catching that corner rod. Make sure you don't make the mistake of going underneath like that, just like the other detail. It has to go out over that one. Bottom rod out and over. That's not the bottom rod, be careful of that. It should be the thicker of the two as well. Bottom rod out and over. Okay, so I've come back to where I started. So if you look here, every rod is sitting under 2. So that one, for example, under 2, that one under 2. So this is my second last one. I bring it out under 1. Anytime you're bringing rods out, your tight space is your big loop. So you bring your second last one out under 1 with the knowledge another rod is coming. Okay, pulling that one in. So this is my last rod. So all your other rods are sitting under 2. So your last rod has to be pulled under 2. If you're pulling Wales under, you generally go that side. If you're pulling Randing under, which this is, you generally go that side. Big loop. Out like that. Okay, so I'm after tucking under my set of Randing rods. I'm going to chop them back. No final trimming, just tidy it up a little bit. Now, when I'm going to put in my Randing rods, I'm going to put them straight in like that, my next set of Randing rods, and bring them up like that. For that reason, I need to put on a top knot first. If I was putting my window in here and just using those weavers to make the window, lifting it up like that, I wouldn't have to put in a top knot. But because the uprights are going directly down like that and curving up, I need to secure these guys. So for the top knot, you take 4 rods, 8 rods in total, 4 on this side and 4 on the other side. They don't need to be quite as thick as they were. So you can, it's going to take up 4 spaces. So you can start either 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to start here. Place it in front of one, behind one. Very much bending your weavers around the uprights there. The next one goes in underneath, like so. In front of one, behind one. Third one in, once again. In underneath like that, out over. And when you put in your third one, your first one follows it. Like so. So that's one set. This is my 4th rod going in. So it goes in there against the uprights on the left. Out over the old guy, pulling out the corners as always. So that's my 4th one. And my second one follows it. So it's a bit of a combination of the regular Randing and the reverse Randing. So the bottom rod comes up and over. And the other one follows it. The bottom rod comes up and over. And the other one follows it. My corners start to go a little bit in there. So I really got to make sure I pull this guy out here now. Bottom rod out and over, pin it. And my other one follows it. Before you push anything down, really get those boys out. Get as much as you can on those corners. Bottom rod up and over. And the other one follows it. Try to rescue that corner a little bit. Bottom rod up and over. This is the corner one, so make sure that guy pulls it in like that. Straighten any of those boys up. And the other one follows it. Okay, so I'm going to do my join here. So I'm going to join one in here, one in here, one in here, one in here. The join is a butt to tip join. With your top knot, you're using material a bit thinner than you have been using, like you wouldn't use anything that thick. So I'm going to use maybe the likes of that. Make sure you're going to get back to the start with still a little bit of strength. Yeah, that's loads. There, it's pretty good. Use your longest first. In underneath the 2 of them, like so. Up and over. And then which rod to take next? If I took this rod, it would leave that one a little bit on its own there without being pinned. So if I do that, that pins that guy in a little bit close, a bit better, okay? So that's the bottom rod, and then the other one follows it. One join, I'll do my next join. Next longest guy. In underneath the 2 of them. And out over. Bottom one, up and over. my third guy, in underneath, out over. Now, which rod you take, you need to make sure it's the one that you've joined. This is the one that hasn't been joined. It's shorter than this one, but it is the exact same rod that we have been taking, the bottom rod, up and over, pinning that guy in like that. And my fourth lead, in underneath, pull out the corners. The other one follows it up, over. Make sure, I might just pull out that corner before going with that. Really pulling out those corners. Bottom rod, up and over, pulling that guy into the upright, and the other one follows it. Bottom rod, out and over, and the other one follows it. Bottom rod, out and over, and the other one follows it. Put a little bit of grease, probably no need for it just yet, it's there for me. Bottom rod up and over. That's a handy one to do for the corners, put it under the arm like that so it holds it. Do your big loop, and the tip just goes underneath these guys. So underneath one, this is coming back where our very first rod went in, underneath one, and it needs to go over the butt and underneath the rod there, like so. And this guy follows it, pull it out, get your kink, big loop, and it goes on top of it. A little bit of grease there, no harm. Often no harm if you have the root set up, give that a quick tug. So the bottom rod, bottom rod up and over it. Comes out under two. Big loop, tip out. Okay, so we're left with two pairs. So I want single rods left in these last four spots. I'm going to take the bottom rod up and over, in front one, behind one. Comes out under the knot here, so then that's single rod there, so that's both those areas taken care of. So now it's here, taking one of the rods and filling the vacancy here, big loop right out underneath the knot. At this stage now you would level off your basket, so maybe get your wrapping iron, give it one general tap down all the way around, like that all the way around, and then you'd level off your basket before putting in your next window. Okay, so I have put in my top knot, and I'm about to put in my window, so I'm going to put my upright in there and bring it over to the right. So the very first thing to do is, with your upright, so you want the curve going over to the right, and you want to hide the cut. So you want the cut like so. So when we place it into the creel, the cut is on the inside and the curve is going over to the right. So the curve going over to the right, my cut on the underside here, like so. So you won't see the cut when the curve is going over to the right, and that's it there on the other side. No harm, just dip them all in the grease. They're quite chunky rods, just make life a little bit easier. I've already dipped the other guys in. So as I was saying, curve going over to the right, and to the right. Curve going over to the right, and to the right. To the right. Come to my corner. So it just goes to the right. There. Oh. Pull that right down. You've probably gone down a bit too far. Something like that is sufficient. I do that all the way around till I come back to where I started. So I'm just going to put in my last 2 rods. If any of the rods are tight, just use your bodkin to make the space. Greased up bodkin. Boy, find the last lead here in the corner. In there. There's a little bit of the cut shown there. I prefer if that wasn't the case. Happy with that. Okay, so I'm going to weave this one, then this one, then this one. If I am weaving that one, I don't want these 2 boys caught up. So I'm just going to hold them out of the way with my foot. And I weave this guy. In front to one, behind one, and out. Something like that. Next one, in front to one, behind one, and out. And you're creating this space now. Let those boys off now. No, no need to hold them any further. Any longer. In front one, behind one, and out. When you get to your corner, you're going to eye up your height because you're going to kink this rod on that corner, holding it out. In front one. So that's kind of your height decided now for them all. All of a sudden you're going up quite a big height, so make sure you have everything lined up nicely. Your shape can go off all of a sudden here. And at eye level is a good thing to do as well. This one here. So if something's lifting up like that, you might have to get it some of the way, push her down, and this leg comes down on top. This is the first one I wove, this rod coming along here. So I've come back to where I started, so I have 2 rods that I have to weave out from underneath. This guy here, exact same principle, in front of one, behind one and out, regular randing, except that we're leaving the bit of space, that's the only difference. Then this other one, my very last rod, in front to one, behind one, and out. Now maybe just before we're going on to the next stage, I get my wrapping iron. Just make sure I'm happy enough with my heights, maybe my shape as well. As I say, we're going up that much all of a sudden, so we need to be careful that we don't let our shape drift on us. It'll be the next weave that will hold a lot of it. Still. Okay, so what I'm after doing there is regular randing. So now we do a knot, so we go that way. So I'm going to start off here. So I'm going to go over one, in front of one, behind one. Instead of weaving this one, this one, this one, I'm after weaving this one. Now I'm going to weave this one. In front of one, behind one. Now you really need to shape up those corners. So once you do your 2 weaves, that one, then you create the 2 pairs. So the bottom rod and the pair on the left comes out and over, holding the shape on that corner. The bottom rod on the left comes out and over. Pull out that corner again, and maybe a knee into that lad. Keeping your shape. Down at eye level again, keeping an eye on it. Pulling that out. Bottom rod out and over. Bottom rod out and over. Really pulling out those corners. Over. Once again, corner, really pull it out. I might do that thing again, putting it underneath my arm so it holds it out. My two hands are free, out and over. Bottom rod up and over. Bottom rod up and over. Bottom rod up and over. And the slight benefit, I was humming and hawing which one to start on. I was going to start on this one at the start. Instead I started on this one. Slight benefit of that is I come back to where my start here is. This is my second last one. This is my last one, as opposed to my second last one being before the corner. So it just doesn't have the hassle of the corner. So when you come back to where you started here, if you look just like before, every rod sits under 2. That's under 2, that's under 2. So this is my second last one. I'm going to pull it out under 1. The weave remains the same, in front to 1, behind 1. Out under 1 with the knowledge another rod is coming afterwards. Nice and handy, nice and handy. When you get to that stage, no harm, just give it a quick pull. Bottom rod out and over. This is my last rod, and this goes out under 2. Now, as I was saying, all of a sudden we're after going up about that height. So it's a good stage, take a break and have a good look at your shape. So what's happening here a little bit, my corners are going in a piece. I'm just coming around to my lap here, pulling out the corners. And my 2 rods underneath, this is my second last one and my last one. So as I say, I'm pulling out the corners as much as possible, but it's still not enough. My corners are still going in here, so it's not as straight as I might like. So I'm going to put a knee in there, pulling them out. So looking along this line, I've just pushed that one in a bit. I think this one might need to go in a touch and the corner out. So you're trying to keep those straight lines as much as possible. This one here now, you can see it's kicking there. I'm going to pull out my 2 corners, get my knee up there. So you got to be quite physical with them, depending on the scale of them. Okay. Now I'm going to go back randing for a while. Okay, I'm after finishing my randing rods, tucking them under. I'm going to put in another set of weavers. So instead of putting them in like regular randing, here, 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 I'm going to load them to the right. So I put one in here. Next one in here. And this will create a nice knot in the basket, similar to what's done here, similar to what's done there. So putting in your corner rod, all the other rods, you leave them out past, like these guys down here, out past, and you do your final trimming at the end. Well, for the corner rod, you won't have access to it later on. So put your slightly angled, maybe a little bit less than that, slightly angular cut, something like that. And it goes in there. Position your corner posts the way they're going to be. In like that, and the bottom rod comes out and over like all the other ones. Like so, and you want to make sure that rod isn't coming out through the weave. In front of one. And you keep loading these guys up just like that till you come all the way around to the start. So I'm just coming back to where I started in this point. Corners. Behind it. I'm not there just yet, that's just a normal one. My next one, it's going in the corner, so that crack again of you leave it on its final positioning. A big loop. So this is my second last one, so it's going out under 1. So it goes over and under. And you make sure you're happy with that location. If you're not, you'd pull the rod through another little bit. That is my second last one. And then my last one, in underneath, out over, in front of one, behind one. and out under 2. So that's all my randing rods in. As I say, I load them up that way. Now that they're all in, I might give it a little bit of a tap down, and then it's regular randing, 1, 2, 3, coming all the way around, weaving your 2 rods out from under, and I'll weave that out until I get to the end of these guys, and I'll do the last weave with the tucking under like this. So I've come to the height that I'm happy with. So I've put in 1 set of weavers, a top knot. The second set of weavers started off here, creating the window. That brought me up to about here. And then I put in a 3rd set of weavers. You can see them starting off here. I've just finished those. And I think my height is about right. So I need to do a top knot once more. I did a top knot there. I'm going to repeat it here, the exact same process. Putting in 4 rods here, front one, behind one. Next one in underneath, front one, behind one. The 3rd one goes in, up and over, pulling out your corners. The 3rd one's gone in, and the 1st one goes with it. Now the 4th one goes in underneath, up and over, pull out your corner. That's the 4th one, and the 2nd one goes with that. Once they're in, then the bottom rod up and over, and the other one follows it. So I'm going to weave these boys over to here. I'm going to do my butt tip join just the same as what I did there. I'm going to come back around and I finish. I'm going to level it off, and then we're moving on to knocking these uprights. So I'm after doing my top knot. I'm after leveling off my basket before I knock the uprights. So it's very important to level off your basket. I did it both by eye and by ruler to make sure. So my next thing is knocking the stakes. The very first stakes to knock are the stakes on the long side. So these boys, you start on your outer, you do this set first, this 2 and these 2. Then you'll move over to the opposite side, do these 2 and these 2, and then whichever the middle 2 you start with after that. Okay, so we're going to start over here. Now, which ones to knock first? It depends which side is wider. So I think this space here is marginally wider than that space there. So it makes sense. Kink this rod down, bring it down. It makes sense to bring this rod to here, making this space slightly narrower. So I've done my kink. I'm going to let it back up. I'm going to get my bodkin. So where this rod is coming out, comes out through the knot like that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my rod. As I say, I have it already kinked. So you just bend it down, kinking it off the knot, bring it all the way down, let it back up. So after kinking it, then we do our big massive loop. We have the bodkin in the location. That's my tip out. Move the bodkin now. I don't think it's doing me any favours. Leaving the grease there. Try not to kink this, giving it as much support as you can, bringing it out. And out, and flatten it down. Okay, so that's my first rod from this side. My next thing then is to jump over to the other side, take the very next rod, kink it down again, just like the other one, let it back up. So the first one's after going over. Now the one from this side is going to go out there in between them, okay? So grease it up. I'm going to do my big loop again, just like before. Just get my tip in at the start. It gets a bit tight there, so I'm going to take the bodkin out. The space is nicely greased up after my grease bodkin been in there. So now my third one, once again, kink it, bring it down, and where that goes over here, once again grease up my bodkin, is in between those 2 there. Okay, get the rod in through. That's the 3rd one down. So then the 4th one, once again, kink it first, bring it down, let it up. And the fourth one then is going to go on the outer side here. Crease it up. I think the space is big enough. Do my big loop. Tip out. Flatten those guys down. So I'm after knocking the longer side. Now you knock the narrow sides. Where you start is your corners, okay? So you take this rod first, then you jump over this rod, and then the corner one, this side, and then the one that's remaining this side and this side, okay? The very first one you knock, if your creel isn't dead square, which often they aren't, you can take your first one. So the weave is over 2, under 2. Big loop, through like that. So if your creel isn't perfectly square, you can bring your first rod to here instead of going to there. Okay, so I'm going to do that just because there's a slight curve there. Over 2, under 2, and it just comes out on top like that. You don't have to pull it through the knot. I'm after taking one from this side. Now I'm going to take one from this side. Kink it first. Over 2, under 2. Likewise, I'm going to pull my first one. Instead of it going there, I'm going to pull my first one from this side also out. There. Okay. Now I go on to my next one. This boy here next. Kink it. Over 2, under 2. From here on in now they come out in this space. That's one from that side. Now I go from one from this side. The next one, which is the big corner one, kink it first. And then do your big loop. Over 2, under 2. I'm after taking one from this side, so then I jump over to this side. Kink it. Over 2, under 2. Out like that. Next boy. Over 2, under 2. That's that. I'm going to jump onto my other corner. Same thing on this side, so I'm going to take this guy first. Over 2, under 2. And like on the other side, instead of bringing the first ones out here, I'm going to bring the first ones out here. So that's that one. I'll leave a little bit of scope on that. The next one. Now the only difference I didn't do on the underside, and it's sitting a little bit funny, I took it out here when I should have really taken it out underneath there. That's why I'm leaving that little bit of scope. Pull that one in tight. That one in tight. That's a slightly better setup on this side. It just sits a little bit better there. So I just brought the second one in underneath it. Okay, so I took one from here. I'm after taking one from here, then jump over to the other side, kink it first. And a few branches on that rod, I'm just going to slip them off. So it's a bit easier for me to pull through. And the first ones came out here. All the remaining ones from the corner are going to come out here, are there. Kink it first and do your big loop. Over 2, under 2, out there. Next one, over 2, under 2, out there. Next one, kink it. Over 2, under 2, out there. Okay, that's my 2 outer ones done. Then I'm going to move on to my next set. So I'll go for these and these, and then I'm going to jump over and do these and these, and finally those. Okay, so these boys, once again, whichever side is bigger, this side is bigger. So the very first one I'm going to take is going over 2, under 2, and these just come out on top of the knot. I can tidy that up afterwards. And then this one over 2, better off on this side, over 2, under 2, bringing this one out, it goes in between the two of them. Okay, similar enough the way we pull these guys out in between each other one. The next boy, kink it down, a big loop, over 2, under 2, once again, in between the two of them. So one from this side, one from this side, the last one's from this side, so this boy, kink it down, huge loop, and out. I'm going to jump over onto the other side, over 2, under 2, like so. The reason for leaving the middle ones to last, you can do that now to make this space as big as possible. I have my final 2 sets left. Just before I get doing that, I'm just going to stand on it just to flatten it a little bit and bring it over here to the level. You stand up in it and just flatten her down. All I need to do here now is knock these 2 sets. So this space here is wider than any other of the 3 spaces. So for that reason, I'm going to take this rod to here to start off. Same thing as before, over 2, under 2. Once you take that one, then you're taking the opposite side, over 2, under 2. Bit of a kink there, you're trying to avoid that. Next one from this side, over 2, under 2. Finding my last guy. Over 2, under 2. Okay, I'm going to do it with my secateurs. I'm going to cut these guys back just roughly for now. This is my final trim. Just giving them a quick chop. My offcut is what I use to fill my spaces. So there's a bit of space there, a bit of space here, here mainly. These 2 spaces are the 2 main spaces. And there's a space there as well. Okay, so I'll start filling one of these middle spaces. So it goes under, over, under, over. Pull it just safe distance there, that doesn't come out too much. Bring it on over. So the weave is different to the other ones where it went over 2, under 2. This is under, over, over. And it goes out underneath the 2 here. So it'll always go out under the top 2, these top 2. All right. I'm going to grease it up, do a bit of a loop. My tip out. I think the bodkin can be moved there now. Okay, so I'm after taking one from this side. I'm going to go from one from the other side. Under, over, under, and over. And then out under these 2. Get the tip out. Slowly working it. Okay. And then that last little bit I might even take out the bodkin. And then I need to pull it over to here. So that's one from that side, just like the first one. Under, over, under. If you're finding it difficult to get any of those rods out, you can use a fid to get it out. If you don't have a fid, you can use a little bit of a rod. You don't need to do that just yet. Bit of skinning on that rod. The skinning will be out past where I pull it, so I'm not worried about it. So I'm after filling the base there. I'm happy that there's no real spaces left. I'm just going to do a very quick trim on these rods I pulled through. Just my quick trim for now, just getting rid of them. Okay, so I'm going to bring it down onto the ground and pull it out of the jig. I'll put my feet on the jig. Just coming up there a little bit, over onto the other side. Working it. Oh, it came up there all of a sudden. That's good. I'm going to jump over to the other side. There she is. Yeah, happy enough they're all fairly level. Okay, the next thing is to trim the base. These bigger boys. Probably use a secateurs. Or it's a snips. Whichever is your preference. So that's all the top rods. And then you'd flip it around the other way to trim the other guys. Getting your snips in as close as possible. A little lift back of that. So I'm after trimming the outside. So now I'm moving on to the inside. Just all these boys resting on the upright. That is the top knot. I'll turn it over. There's 4 here as well. That's the top knot. And then I have my set of randing rods down here that need trimming also. Just trimming those boys so they're resting on the upright. Okay. So trimming the rods that finish the base. The sectors like that. Nice flush cut off the wall. I need to come back for those boys. That's that wall. Same along here. Just along flush the wall of the basket. That's those boys.
And now I'm going to put a handle on this creel. So I'll point my main rod first. Drive it in there. So I bend this to form the bow. I could go a little deeper perhaps, but there's only 1 row of weaving, so I don't want to go too deep. Grease up just slightly again because it's a little bit tight coming through there. That's about the depth I want. Get the equivalent depth for this rod, and now I twist this. So you can always give it a little kink therefore, so it won't be rotating. So that's 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns. If you had a very big handle, you could put 4.5 turns, but usually it's 3.5 turns. So. So to return, you come under the handle like so. Renew the twist, and you can use quite a bit of resistance from other parts of your body just to make sure that that handle rod is tight. So I've done 1 journey, 2 journeys, and this is its 3rd journey. So when you're finishing with the rod, you thread it in there so that each time you pull the handle, you're also tightening the exit rod. And that will be threaded away in and out. Well, I'll give it 1 thread now. Okay, so now I come back to this and twist this. Tiny little bit of skinning there. I want to, normally you wouldn't have this difficulty with another basket, but the stakes are a little bit in the way there, so I have to squeeze them out of the way to make room for that. So this tiny little bit of skin damage on that willow, but hopefully I'll get away with it. Tighten that, renew the twist, and bring the rod through for its final journey. Because a creel handle is a bit larger, if you found that the rod didn't fill the whole bow, you can always take a supplementary rod and fill with it. But I think it'll be adequate. Get my back in and make a space for the rod through there. A sin gweilge tá sin an irish. And I just need my secateurs to trim off the end pieces.